Oh, come on! I have to fight this too. Look.
Well, that was just unlucky. I'm gonna clip that. According to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, agency is defined as the capacity, condition, or state of acting or of exerting power. In terms of video games, what that essentially means is your ability to choose what you do and how you do it. This can be referred to as player agency. So in this clip, I was clearly unlucky, but let me ask you one question. Did I have agency here? The answer here would be yes. Even though I died because I made the choice to go inside the building. I could have tried to run away, go back to where I started, which is inside that building behind me at the start of the clip, or just run somewhere else entirely different. However, despite having agency here, it doesn't matter what choice I actually make, because in this clip, I had such a bad start that no matter what I did, I would reach the same result, and that is death. But I want to make it clear that what matters here is not that the end result is the same, but it's the fun that you have in getting to that end result. I mean, the game literally says, this is how you died at the start. A good example of this would actually be Death Stranding. For those of you who aren't familiar with Death Stranding, or only know it as that walking simulator game that Hideo Kojima made, it's a game about making deliveries from one settlement to another and connecting them into the United Cities of America, which is an organization dedicated to connecting the USA back to what it once was. Now that's a very basic explanation of the game, but this game could get a whole video to itself, and it might after I fully finish it. But for the purposes of this video, all you need to know is that you make a delivery, you get a grade, and you progress the story. That's it. So really, your choices in game only affect one of two things: the speed at which you complete your delivery, and the grade you get on your delivery. Now despite the impact of your choices being relatively low, the amount of player agency you have is what makes the game fun. So although you might arrive at the same conclusion as everyone else who plays the game, it's the journey that really matters. We can refer to this type of game as a high agency, low impact type of game. Games like these are focused more on the how rather than the what. How do you do something rather than what is it you're doing it for?
And now for something completely different.
Fighting games are something that are near and dear to my heart, and I don't think I talk about them nearly as much as I should. In my mind, they are the epitome of player agency. But yet, despite this, a lot of people still don't find fighting games fun. So let's take a look at what player agency actually is in terms of fighting games. Right from the get-go in fighting games, you're asked to make a high-impact choice that also varies greatly, and that's which character to select. This decision doesn't just impact what character you move on screen, but what you learn, how your opponent will play against you, your play style for however long you play the game, and a million different factors that can't just be summarized in this quick segment. But that's the thing about fighting games. They're chock full of these high-impact, high-variety decisions that you don't even realize are there. For some, this fast-paced decision-making is what keeps fighting games interesting. But for others, it can be overwhelming, especially when you're already having to recall special moves, what those special moves do, combos, etc. But if we slow the gameplay down and make it a little bit more traditional for your average gamer, we can fit a few more games into this category that you wouldn't think would go here. One example you probably didn't think of is Minecraft. Every single choice you make in your world is permanent, so it has a huge impact, but there's so many different choices that you can do that are unlike other people. There are people who have gone their entire time playing Minecraft, which could be hundreds of hours or just a couple hours, without having quote-unquote beat the game. So that's pretty unique. Now obviously these two games are very different from each other. However, that's not the point. The point is that they fall into the same sort of category of player agency. Whereas games like Death Stranding and Project Zomboid were focused on the how rather than the what, these games are focused on the how and the what. How do you accomplish something, and what is it you're accomplishing it for? So naturally, there has to be a third category. A category of games that don't give you too many choices, but all the choices you make are high impact. Just like how I think fighting games are the epitome of high agency, high impact games, visual novels are the epitome of low agency, high impact games. They concern themselves not with the how, but the what. how do you do something doesn't matter when the path is pretty clear. It's more about what actually happens. That's not to discredit the importance of the path itself, but really, the ending is what you're doing it for. I opened up with Steins Gate because it's my favorite visual novel and one of my favorite anime. However, I'll be the first to admit that the way you make choices and the amount of choices you make are very weird and very few sometimes. You see, in the game, rather than being presented by a text box, you have to make choices by using your phone or not using your phone. The amount of times you use your phone with meaningful impact outside of the true ending are very few and far between. But that's the thing. Every time there is meaningful impact, it's a huge change in the story. A more traditional visual novel would be Magikoi, where you get to make your choices directly rather than through a phone, and those choices are more common. Now, just because those choices are more common doesn't make them any less impactful. Sure, the first chapter might not have impactful choices, but once you start getting into the later chapters, every choice can lead you down a different route. So why does any of this actually matter? All of these games seem pretty unrelated to each other, and they're all from completely different genres. Well, to put it simply, it's to show that each different game has a different way of presenting fun to you through options that you make. At their core, video games are all about letting players have input on their environment. But not everyone likes the same input. Some people like doing motion inputs, while some people just like holding left mouse button. Neither of these are necessarily worse than the other, because they're adapted to their individual game. However, it's important to understand which type of game you like in terms of the choices you get to make. This not only helps you focus your choices in what you play down to only what you like, but it also helps you stay away from stuff you know that you'll dislike, and also recognize when games have transformed from something that you do like into something that you don't enjoy anymore, so you can spend your time on stuff you actually want to have fun in. At the end of the day, these categorizations aren't perfect. They're just there to help you understand what kind of games you do and don't like to play. And if you want to make your own sort of categorization, feel free. I'm not the person who's ruling over this sort of thing. Maybe to you, Project Zomboid isn't a high agency, low impact game. Maybe it's a high agency, high impact game. When it comes down to it, it's up to you. Thank you all for watching. This video took a little bit more effort than my last one, but I want to thank everyone who watched that last video. It gave me a lot of confidence in terms of actually putting out high quality content. This video was kind of just inspired by that first clip, and, you know, it kind of spiraled into this from just a random thought. So, yeah, thank you. If you like the video, like it. If you don't like it, dislike it. Subscribe if you want to see more of this. That's all I gotta say. Bye.